The hardest words I ever swallowed were the simplest ones. I'm 77 years old now, and there isn't a morning that passes where I don't wish I had said two small words more often. I love you. My name is Thomas. I was married for 48 years to a woman who knew my routines better than my own heartbeat, and still, I left so much unsaid. I'm sharing this not because I have answers, but because I have regrets that might save you from carrying the same weight. By the end of this story, you'll understand why love must be spoken while there's still time to hear it. Asterisk, when I was a younger man, I believed love was something you proved with actions alone. I fixed the sink when it leaked. I worked overtime when the bills piled up. I showed up. In my mind, that was enough. Words felt unnecessary, almost fragile, like they might cheapen what I was already doing. I didn't grow up in a house where feelings were spoken out loud. My father worked. My mother cooked. Silence filled the spaces between them, and no one questioned it. I assumed that was what marriage looked like. Quiet loyalty, steady responsibility, love that lived in motion, not in language. I met my wife, Eleanor, when I was 27. She laughed with her whole body, like she wasn't afraid of taking up space in the world. On our first date, she talked about things I had never stopped to think about. What kind of life she wanted. How she believed words could heal people. I remember nodding along, smiling, thinking she was charming. I didn't realize she was telling me exactly who she was and what she would need right from the start. In the early years, I said it more. I love you slipped out easily when everything was new, when we were building something together, when life felt like it was opening instead of closing. But slowly, without noticing, I let the words fade. Not because the feeling was gone, because I assumed it was understood, because I told myself, she knows, because I was tired after work, because tomorrow always felt guaranteed. Marriage has a way of turning days into patterns. Wake up, coffee, work, dinner, television, sleep, repeat. The extraordinary becomes ordinary, and the ordinary becomes invisible. Eleanor would sometimes say it first, almost casually, as she passed me in the hallway or turned off the light at night. I'd respond with a smile, or a squeeze of the hand, or sometimes nothing at all. Not out of cruelty, out of distraction, out of habit, out of the quiet arrogance that assumes time will always give you another chance. There were moments when I noticed her pause, just a second longer than normal. A flicker in her eyes when my response didn't come. I noticed, but I didn't stop. I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself love didn't need constant confirmation. I told myself I was being practical, strong, reliable. I didn't realize I was being silent. Life moved fast. Careers rose and fell. Money worries came and went. Children arrived, loud and demanding, pulling attention in every direction. Eleanor became the center of that storm. She remembered birthdays, doctor appointments, permission slips. She listened to scraped knees and teenage heartbreaks. I admired her for it. I depended on her for it. I just didn't always say it out loud. Sometimes, late at night, she would talk about her fears, getting older, losing people, becoming invisible. I would listen, but I wouldn't always respond with words. I'd pull her closer. I'd tell her everything would be fine. What I didn't say was how deeply she mattered to me, how her presence made my life make sense, how the idea of losing her scared me more than anything I could name. I thought those truths were obvious. I thought my being there was enough. Years passed like this, quietly, comfortably, dangerously quietly. We argued, like all couples do, about small things that were never really small. Dirty dishes, money, time. Underneath it all was something neither of us fully named. A hunger for reassurance. A need to be seen. I didn't understand that love, unspoken, can begin to feel like love withheld. One evening stands out now more than it should have back then. Eleanor had cooked dinner, something simple. We ate mostly in silence. The television murmured in the background. As she cleared the plates, she stopped and looked at me, really looked at me. She said softly, "Do you still love me?" The question caught me off guard. I laughed a little, uncomfortable. I said, "Of course I do. You know that." She nodded, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I went back to watching the screen. That moment passed, but it never really left. Wish I could tell you that I changed after that. That I understood. That I started saying the words every day. But change doesn't always come with dramatic music or sudden clarity. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it never comes at all. I kept living the way I always had, assuming love was implied, assuming presence was proof, assuming silence was safe. Then came the year everything shifted. Eleanor started getting tired more easily. Little things at first. Shortness of breath, missed steps. She brushed it off. So did I. Doctor's appointments became more frequent. Words like tests and results entered our conversations. The house felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. I still didn't say the words as often as I should have. I was scared. Saying them felt like admitting something might be taken away. Hospitals have a way of stripping life down to essentials. Machines beep. Shoes squeak on polished floors. Time stretches and compresses all at once. I sat beside her bed, holding her hand, watching her sleep. I told myself I would say everything once she was better. I rehearsed speeches in my head. I imagined future mornings, coffee on the table, sunlight through the window, the words finally flowing freely. Tomorrow. Always tomorrow. One night, she woke up and looked at me. Her voice was weak, but clear. She said, "You don't have to be strong all the time." I didn't know what to say. I squeezed her hand. I smiled. I stayed silent. I didn't realize she was giving me an opening. A final invitation to speak from the place I had kept guarded for decades. The next morning, the room felt different. Too quiet, too still. Doctors spoke gently, carefully. Words landed like stones in my chest. I stood there, numb, holding a lifetime of unsaid sentences inside me. In that moment, every excuse I had ever made collapsed. Tired, busy, tomorrow. None of it mattered anymore. As I leaned close to her, surrounded by wires and fading monitors, I finally felt the weight of the words I had saved for later. My mouth opened, my heart raced. And just as I was about to say them, the nurse gently touched my shoulder. The nurse's hand on my shoulder was gentle, but it might as well have been a wall. She shook her head slightly. "Not yet," she said. They needed a moment. I stepped back, the words still burning my throat, suddenly homeless. I told myself it was fine. I'd say them when they were done. I'd say them soon. That lie felt thin even as I believed it. I sat down again, staring at the floor, counting the tiles, trying to keep my breathing steady. Time did something strange. Then, it didn't rush. It didn't stop. It hovered, cruel and quiet, letting every regret stretch out and look me in the eye. When they finally let me back to her side, the room felt colder. Eleanor's face looked peaceful, but distant, like she was already halfway somewhere I couldn't follow. I leaned close, my lips near her ear, and I said it. "I love you." I said it slowly, clearly, the way I should have said it 1,000 times before. I don't know if she heard me. I choose to believe she did. But belief is a poor substitute for certainty. She never opened her eyes again. The words landed in the air and fell to the floor, too late to do their work. Grief doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in through cracks you didn't know were there. At first, I moved through the days like a guest in my own life. People brought food. They hugged me. They said the right things. I nodded. I thanked them. Inside, I replayed moments on an endless loop. Her pausing in the hallway. Her question at the dinner table. The softness in her voice when she said I didn't have to be strong. Each memory felt like a door I could have opened, if only I had reached for the handle. The house was the hardest part. Every room echoed with her absence. Her shoes by the door. Her mug in the cabinet. The way she used to hum while folding laundry. Silence, once familiar, became unbearable. I realized then how much she had filled the space with sound, with warmth, with life, and I realized how often I had met that fullness with quiet. Not because I didn't care, because I assumed it would always be there. Weeks turned into months. I slept on my side of the bed, leaving hers untouched longer than I should have. At night, I talked to her, out loud. I told her everything I hadn't said, how proud I was of her, how safe she made me feel, how my life made sense because she was in it. The words came easily now, pouring out in the dark, with no one to hear them but the walls. Love, it turns out, doesn't disappear when the person is gone. It just has nowhere to go. One afternoon, I found a box in the closet. Inside were letters. Notes she had written over the years and never sent. Some were addressed to me, some to the kids, some to no one in particular. They weren't angry. They weren't accusatory. They were honest. She wrote about feeling loved and sometimes lonely, about knowing I cared and wishing I said it more, about understanding my silence and still aching for words. Reading them felt like sitting across from her, finally hearing what she had been saying all along. I cried then, the kind of crying that empties you out. Not because she had been unhappy. She hadn't. She had loved me deeply. That was clear. I cried because I saw how small the distance had been between us. Just a few words. Just a habit. Just the courage to speak when it felt uncomfortable. I had thought love was something you hold. I learned too late that it's also something you release, again and again into the world. As time passed, the sharp edges of grief softened. They didn't disappear, but they became less likely to cut me open without warning. I started volunteering at the local library, reading to kids on Saturday mornings. Their laughter reminded me of how sound can fill a room, how presence matters. Sometimes parents would linger, watching their children, lost in their own thoughts. I wanted to grab them by the shoulders and say it now. But wisdom, I've learned, is best offered gently. Friends my age would talk about their marriages, their routines, their annoyances. I listen differently now. When someone sighed, "She knows I love her," I felt a familiar ache. Knowing is not the same as hearing. Understanding is not the same as being told. Love doesn't diminish when you speak it. It grows. It settles. It reassures. It becomes a place the other person can rest. I began telling my children I loved them. Every time we spoke. At first, it felt awkward. Forced. They noticed. They smiled. Over time, it became natural. Necessary. One of my sons called me after a rough day at work and said hearing it helped more than he expected. That's when I understood something Eleanor had known all along. Words are not decorations. They are foundations. I don't believe regret is meant to punish us forever. I believe it's meant to teach us if we're willing to listen. My regret taught me that love is not just about endurance. It's about expression. It's about choosing every day to make the invisible visible. To take what lies in your chest and offer it freely without waiting for the perfect moment. If you're listening to this and thinking of someone, anyone, I hope you don't wait. Say the words clumsily if you have to. Say them quietly. Say them often. Not because something bad is about to happen, but because something good is already here. Time is generous until it isn't. Don't let silence be the thing you remember most. I'm 77 now. I carry my love for Eleanor with me everywhere. It shows up in small ways, in kindness, in patience, in the way I speak now, even when my voice shakes. I can't change what I didn't say then, but I can honor her by saying it now to you, through this story. Love out loud. Love while there's time. If this helped you, subscribe and share it with someone you love.